All right, you guys, we need to have a conversation. Okay. Now there's a lot of stupidity. It's rampant. It's an epidemic, and I am by and large, I am a huge contributor to that. I am an amplifier of stupidity. But every once in a while, I say something important and helpful, and I'm going to endeavor to do that in this statement here today, because we are about to run into a really serious problem about something that shouldn't matter at all. It has to do with this tweet that I ended up actually replying to. It's from United Trey, and it basically lists a bunch of guys that were really good players that never won a Ballon d'Or. Right, and then it says Vinicius is now the betting favorite. He's quoting a tweet where Vinicius is the betting favorite for the Ballon d'Or, with Jude Bellingham coming in second. And basically the point that United Trey is trying to make is that, well, if all these guys didn't win it, then how he might actually say that at the bottom of this tweet. None of these players won the Ballon d'Or. Now look at us now. I mean, he used the word now twice, which makes me want to break out in hives, but I'm going to try to mentally and emotionally move past that so that I can get to the point that I actually want to talk about. And that's that there is a reason for that. There's two players you may or may not have heard of named Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, who won the fucking award all of those times, with the exception of maybe like one of these guys that would have had an opportunity at the peak of their power to win it before those players kind of showed up on the scene in the first place. But seriously, the vast majority of these guys, their entire peaks of their careers were gobbled up by two of the five best players that have ever strapped on a pair of boots anywhere in the world. Out of tens of billions of people that have lived and attempt to play this game, two of the five at the same time, and they owned it, with the exception of the Luka Modric Participation Award for friendship and forgiveness for getting Croatia to the World Cup final. Right? That is it. Okay, and so we're going to have to get used to. My announcement and help for you, it's twofold here, but the first fold, if that's even how that sentence is supposed to work, is we're going to have to get used to the fact that those two guys aren't around anymore, right? And so we're going to have to give the award to the person that we deem to be the best player who's having the best season from now, right? Like, that doesn't mean that we're giving the award. We're so used to giving the Ballon d'Or to somebody that is in the argument for the greatest player of all time, right? The vast majority of the Ballon d'Ors in my lifetime have been given to one of two players who were both in that argument, in my opinion, for a very long time, right? And so we're used to the Ballon d'Or being this sort of crowning achievement for these players that go on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest players to ever kick a ball. And Vinicius and Jude Bellingham, at least not yet, or anywhere near that sort of consideration, that sort of veneration, that sort of religious admiration, right? But that does not mean they don't deserve the Ballon d'Or, because the Ballon d'Or is just supposed to be given to the best player from that particular year. Ronaldo and Messi turned it into a way to measure greatness that it previously just wasn't used for. Like, even you talk about somebody like Pele, he didn't even have the opportunity to win it, because at that time it was only given to players in Europe. Right, so if you go even further back than that, you've got Andrade, or I'm probably saying his name wrong, I don't know, the guy that was the superstar for Uruguay at the early Olympic Games in the 20s, who was the best player in the world, right? That guy never had a shot to win Ballon d'Ors either. The Ballon d'Or pissing contest, like the Ballon d'Or dick measuring contest that was Ronaldo and Messi, that kind of just became a thing. And I don't think we're going to live in an era like that anymore. I think we're going to live in an era that's much more similar to what was going on before Messi and Ronaldo, if you're old enough to remember that. I'm actually really not, or at least I wasn't paying attention to it back then. But if you're an astute lover of history, and we go before the era of Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, which began in 2008, you'll notice that there is essentially a different winner of that award every single season. There's Kaká, there's Fabio Cannavaro, there's Ronaldinho, there's Shevchenko, there's Nedved, there's Ronaldo as in R9 winning his second, there's Michael Owen, there's Luis Figo, there's Rivaldo, Zinedine Zidane, all the way back to 1997 from 2008 to find somebody who won the award multiple times. This is an award that, instead of being a pissing contest for the greatest ever, was much more considered as the crowning achievement of a career, that if you could get it one time, that meant that you were, at that particular moment, the best player in the world. And a couple of the players that ended up on Trey's list, whether it be Lampard, who I saw pop up in second, or Thierry Henry pop up in second, you have 2005 and 2003 respectively, right? Those guys were around and had a shot to win that award, but for whatever reason, in that particular moment, they weren't the best player in the world, and they weren't recognized as the best player in the world. So we're just going to have to get, it doesn't mean that Vinicius Jr. is not the best player in the world. there's a really compelling argument to be made that he is, right? And I'm not going to stand in front of that freight train and tell you he's wrong. My personal belief, right, is that it's probably Kylian Mbappe, right, is the best player in the world. But you know what? Vinicius Jr. is the guy that won the big one, right? He won the Champions League, and he was a huge part of that. Kylian Mbappe didn't do that, right? And they're about to be on the same team. So we're going to get to have that really fun debate for a long time. Haaland's always in the conversation, but the haterades become stronger since he finished second in the voting last year because he doesn't do anything else but score, which makes everybody uncomfortable because he doesn't score these beautiful, long-running, majestic goals. And you wouldn't consider him the best player in the world at every position, but he is the best striker in the world, it seems, at the moment. So he's always going to be in these conversations. And then, of course, there's Jude Bellingham, who has a PR operation on the same level as Michael Jordan and LeBron James already, even though he's like 20 years old, or at least everybody's telling me he's 20 years old. He has the composure of a 45-year-old future presidential candidate, so I'm a little suspicious. But all those guys are going to be in the conversation. I think at a particular moment, if they happen to have a particularly ridiculous season, they could become the Ballon d'Or winner. And I'm sure there are players out there like Endrick or somebody else maybe we even haven't heard of that are going to burst onto the scene in the next couple of years. I wouldn't put it past Nicholas Füllkrug to drop a 40-goal season and win the award. Who knows, right? But the point is, this list is basically full, mostly, of people that were just largely unlucky, and that's the reason that they never won the award. But the other part, because I said this was twofold, so the other fold of this argument is the other reason they didn't win the award is because the award itself is stupid. It's dumb. The award is dumb. Most awards are. There's a really hard bar from Luis Suarez where he's talking about the golden boots that he won in La Liga, saying that those weren't popularity contests, right? That's why he's really proud of them. Like, I earned that one, because I scored the most goals, and that's just a stat. And that bar has a lot of truth from Luis Suarez. That did every year that Ronaldo and Messi win the Ballon d'Or, did they put up the best numbers? Did they win the most trophies? Did they have the best season? The answer's no. I mean, the answers are pretty clearly no. Now, the vast majority of the time they did, but there are a few years you can point at and say, there was an opportunity for somebody else to have won that, but Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo just owned it for so long that as long as that voting committee could give, it's not a committee, but that as long as that group of voters could give them the award and not be completely destroyed for it, they would. The Ballon d'Or is like being elected class president in high school. You need a bunch of people to know who you are. You need a bunch of people to like you. It's probably why somebody like Zlatan Ibrahimovic was, never actually ended up winning the award. But it's surprising how many people don't know this, that it's an award that's not even tied to FIFA, right? It is an award that is presented by a French magazine called France Football. And they started presenting it in 1956. It is voted on by writers. Up until 2006, it was based exclusively on voting from just football sports writers, like Fabrizio Romano. That's basically who is voting, right? Fabrizio, David Ornstein, like these are the guys that would just be electing the winner of the Ballon d'Or every year. The way it's been changed now is that there is a single journalist from each of the top 100 ranked countries in the world, and we know how ridiculous those rankings can be. There's one journalist from each of those countries that can submit a vote basically for the Ballon d'Or, and that's how the winner of this award is decided. A legacy-defining award is decided. I've just always looked at the Ballon d'Or and kind of thought that it was stupid to begin with because it's so separated from anything. There's a FIFA Men's Player of the Year and obviously like a FIFA Women's Player of the Year and everything, and those have been, in my opinion, I'm hesitant to compliment anything FIFA happens to be doing, right? But they've been perhaps awarded a bit more fair. When Lewandowski had his particularly unbelievable season, he's the guy that won the award, that sort of thing. But the Ballon d'Or is about to get a lot more diverse, and people being upset by it, saying that it devalues the award, don't have any concept of history and are just kind of looking for reactions and clicks. And then on the other side of it, there's the fact that the award doesn't really matter that much to begin with. It's just a fun gala where we get to wheel out a couple of washed up old footballers so that they can shill their cryptos or their NFTs or something to a wider and larger audience. We can wheel out Speed so he can bark at a few people. And then we just give an award to the most popular kid in class and go on our merry way. So that's how I know Jude Bellingham's going to win it at some point. He is the most popular kid in class. But this is Vinicius's moment. You know, it's his moment, and he's going to win it, and then we'll move on to Jude Bellingham, and then we're going to feel bad that Erling Haaland hasn't won it, and so eventually Erling Haaland's going to have a particularly voluptuous goal-scoring year, then he's going to win one. Right? This is how MVP awards work in the United States. It's only fair the Ballon d'Or would go in the same direction. But yeah, there's no empirical reason that you win the award in the first place. It's entirely subjective, and the people that are actually making the decisions are often far-flung, and their votes are often incredibly strange. So just try not to put too much stock into the Ballon d'Or stuff, especially now that it's going to become a lot more controversial.